Hello, mindful friends. Today we are going to be talking about staying in compassion even when we are around difficult people. And this topic came up this week in class when every single one of our mindful friends brought up the challenge of facing difficult people in their lives, and how hard it is for us to stay compassionate and stay grounded in our truth, in our true values, and in our essence when we are around difficult people or people who challenge us and our beliefs or our values or our well-being. And coming back to what's most important is staying within our true nature and behaving in ways that reflect who we really want to be in the world and what we really want to be offering to the world. So when we look at that with ourselves, most of the time, if we're in this practice or we're mindful folks, we're wanting to be compassionate, we're wanting to hold peace within, we are wanting to be intentional. And when we face a difficult person, we may struggle with being able to stay compassionate, right? They challenge us, so we want to push back, or we drop into anger and we respond or more react out of anger. And we go into fight mode or defense mode or threat mode, and it takes us out of being the person we really want to be. So what we want to look at is, how can we be in the presence of a difficult person and not slide into behaving in ways that aren't authentic to what we really value and who we really want to be. And the only way that we can stay compassionate for others when we're being challenged is if we are able to take care of ourselves and to be in a place where we can still feel grounded and centered even in their presence. And in Thich Nhat Hanh's monasteries, they have a way of asking for the time and the space to come back to their center when they have been triggered by another person. So they would, in that situation, they would notice that they were getting heightened, that they were getting triggered, and they would ask, I need to go take care of my anger, or I need to go take care of my emotions before we re-engage. So they have a mutual understanding there that helps them to be able to come back to center before reacting with a person, so that they can stay within their own values and their own essence in this connection that's difficult. Out in the real world, that's not an expected response from people, right? It seems weird to say to somebody, I cannot continue in this interaction right now because I need to go take care of my anger. But ideally, that's what we need to do. Whether we ask in that way, or whether we remove ourselves in another way, or recognize that I cannot react right now, I cannot continue the connection right now, I need to step away and come back into my true essence. Go ahead and listen to self, find that space, nurture self, listen to this emotion that just arose, so that I can come back into this challenging situation and remain true to who I really am. Because we all know that when it's makes it way more harmful being around difficult people if we start noticing that we aren't acting true to self. If we behave in ways that are aggressive or angry or threatening, that this is more harmful to both us and the other person. So the first thing that we need to do is to recognize this difficult person is taking me out of my true essence. And that really this becomes our teacher. Where do we need to strengthen? And what do we need to nurture within self that allows us to stay grounded in our own essence, even in their presence? And in this way, we don't just blame our bad behavior on the other person. It's like owning it for ourselves. I'm in charge of who I am, of how I respond, of how I take care of my internal state and show up for the world around me. That's on me, not on the other people around me. So we figure out in that moment, I recognize that I've been triggered, and we recognize it's time to come back home and spend time with self and ask yourself, what is it that was so hard about that situation? What is it that just triggered within you that made you feel like you needed to react in ways that were not compassionate or not kind? And it doesn't mean that we can't be firm with other people. There's monastics and leaders, and they can be very firm with other people, but it's always rooted in love and compassion. And I know you know the difference of when you're being firm out of anger or hatred or disappointment versus if we're being firm out of care and compassion for another person. And both of us, really, keeping both of us safe. And so we're listening. What is it that was hard? What do I really need in this situation? What would bring me back to center and being okay here? And this is a deep listening of self. And when we do this, and we give ourselves the time and the space for those emotions that were just triggered to be heard and understood, then it gives us the opportunity to come out of that heightened emotional triggered state and return to who we really are. Return to what we really value and how we want to show up in the world. And this actually is a great teacher for us, is that every time we're triggered, it shows us what are those soft points within us or those weak points within us that need a little strengthening, that need a little more understanding, a little more compassion, so that we're not as threatened in these instances to the point where we feel like we have to react in anger or fighting. And that is what shows us the things that need to be healed within us and allows us the opportunity to heal ourselves more so that we aren't so triggered by others. And it was Ajahn Brahm who always tells a story about a monastery where there was one really difficult monk who just irked all the other monks and pushed their buttons and was just a pain in their rear, and all of them were so challenged by him. And one time that monk was like, you know what, I'm not wanted here, I'm going to leave. And he left the monastery. And then 2 weeks later, he showed back up. And all the other monks were complaining to the venerable or the head monk. Why is he back? Why did you let him back in? What is he doing here? And the venerable said, oh, I went and chased him down and paid him to come back here. And they were like, what are you talking about? Why would you do that? And it's, he explained, it's because he is one of your greatest teachers. Because if you do not have to face difficult people, and you do not have to face people who trigger you and point to those weak spots within you, you are not motivated to turn inward and to see what are those places within me that need healing, that need transformation, so that I can show up in compassion with this person too. So this week, I invite you to notice those people that present difficulty in your life, that are hard for you to be around, and use them as a teacher to turn inward and ask yourself, what needs nurturing or healing within me so that I can show up as my best self, my compassionate self in this relationship too. If you enjoy these little talks and would like to join us for a group session or individual coaching, you can find us at newleafmindfulness.com. And don't forget to like and share this video. I hope to see you all very soon.